Hello mate, I thought I'd give you a quick summary of how to fly in Annecy. I know Jenny's going to go with you and stuff in more detail when she gets there, but just to sort of get you started, I'm sure you've done a bit of research, but basically there's two main takeoffs in the valley. You've got one up here, if I can work out how to fly Google Earth. Yeah, there's one there. That's called Fourclaz or Monmim. And then there's another one over here near where it says Bluffy. So that's Plomfay. So they're the main two takeoffs. Plomfay here and Fourclaz over here. Fourclaz takeoff, the landing field is down in Doussard down here. And it's a really big, easy landing field. About as easy as they get, really. So this is the landing area here. There are some rules. You need to look on the takeoff or on the landing. There's takeoff and the landing. There's a board. There's always a board in the landing fields and most of the takeoffs with the rules on them, and there are always rules. And so it's worth having a look at those boards. But the basic picture with the Fourclaz landing, which is the one down in Doussard down here, is you're not actually allowed to fly low over this nature reserve. So you need to come. You can be pretty low, but you've got to be something like 300 metres above this nature reserve. The landing approach for this, normally when you're landing, the breeze will be coming off the lake, coming from the lake, coming down this way. And so you want to be landing into wind, obviously, but the way to do that, in order to fit in with the busy pattern, is to lose your height over here, get low here, and then fly downwind over this car park, over the edge of the sports complex here, and then round and into wind this way. What British pilots tend to want to do is to fly back down here and then do figure of eights here, getting in the way of everybody. And so you're better off sticking with the pattern, losing your height over here, getting low. You want to be really low. You want to be literally about twice the height of the sports hall. This is a big sports hall building here. It's quite obvious. You want to be about twice the height of that. And then come diving downwind, down the side of this, and then round and into wind this way. Doing it on the other side, coming down this side and round this way, is technically the hang glider approach. You don't really want to get in the way of them. And this can be really busy. It's probably not going to be too bad in April, but it can get really, really busy. And you can fit lots of people into that pattern. You can have loads of people losing their height over here somewhere, and then one at a time they go peeling in. So you can have like a whole line of people coming down here and round and in. I wouldn't put yourself low behind the sports hall for obvious reasons. Lots of people do it, and people don't seem to tend to end up crashing, which is always a bit of a surprise. But I wouldn't want to put myself low behind this, especially when it's windy. So that's the main landing field in Doussard, which is the one you'll be using if you are flying from Fourclaz. If you're flying at Plomfay, which is over here somewhere, there we go, it's by that Acro Adventures sign here. That's the takeoff here. And the landing for this one is down by this industrial estate down here. This is the landing field here. And this is really sensitive, this landing field. There's loads of people around that don't like paragliders, particularly the guy that lives in this house here. And so you absolutely mustn't ever, when you're flying here, fly over the top of this house. And again, there's a board with instructions on it down here in the corner down here. There's one up on the takeoff as well. And if you look at that board, there's a map with a big "do not fucking fly over this house" sign, even if you're high. You're not supposed to fly low over these buildings. You're not supposed to fly low over these buildings either. And so you come out from the takeoff with plenty of height to come over these houses without it being intimidating for them. And the best place to lose your height over here is over this industrial area. And the breeze, again, tends to be a valley wind coming from this way and coming down across in here. There's normally a big windsock that you can see. So you expect the wind normally to be coming from the north and coming down this way, fed by that valley wind, basically. In which case, you want to do the same sort of approach. You want to lose your height over here, come down the side of this, over this car park, and round and into land here. doing a constant aspect approach. And again, you can fit lots of people into that pattern. You can have loads of people getting low over here, and one at a time they go peeling down and round. Nice thing about that approach is if it's windy, you just come in sooner. If there's less wind, you can go further back over here, maybe back over here before you turn into wind. You're not supposed to land in this field here, and the farmers get really pissed off if you do, largely because whoever owns this field's getting paid and whoever owns this field isn't. It's very common that people go too far back and they go back over here and they get parked into wind here, and then they come down and they land on the bus stop here or in the campsite here. So that's the whole point of doing this constant aspect approach, is that you're not letting yourself come right back downwind and getting stuck in that strong wind back down here. So you're diving down the side, again low, get low here, come really low, down over this car park and then round and in this way. Sometimes the wind comes the opposite way, in which case you do it back to front and coming the other way around. There is an emergency landing field. If there's a helicopter in this one or something, there's one of these fields over here you're allowed to land in an emergency. I can't remember which one it is. I think it might be that one. Plomfay's quite good for you because you can get a free bus which goes from this corner here. There's a bus stop here, and that will take you all the way up to Takeoff for free, amazingly. I'm not sure what time of year that runs, but certainly in the summer there's a totally free bus here, and you can park in the car park here for free. There are toilets in there as well. Whether or not you can park there overnight, I doubt it. For the Falklands Takeoff, let's go back. Where are we? Sorry, for the Falklands landing, there is also a navette, which I think you do have to pay for, basically a bus, which goes from the car park here, and that goes up to Takeoff, to the Falklands Takeoff, to the Monmin Takeoff. I think you do have to pay for that. And again, I don't know what time of year that starts to run. So in terms of actually flying here, come on, navigating. This is harder than it looks. Nearly there. In terms of actually flying here, the key point is that in the morning, the sun rises over this side and it shines on this big piece of terrain here. And so if you go up Falklands Takeoff first thing in the morning, you'll be on the wrong side of the valley and there won't be any wind, and you can take off, but you won't be able to stay up. It'll be in shade and it won't be working. So in the morning, the Falklands Takeoff won't work. Well, you can take off, but that side of the valley is not working thermic-wise. You do also have quite a lot of trees down here and nowhere to land. So when you take off from Falklands, you do need to, you don't want to hang around and get low here, because there's nowhere to land down here. You've got to get at least back to, even for a bomb outfield, back over here, which is quite a long way. So in the morning, the sun comes up over here and it's going to illuminate these easterly facing sides of this terrain here. This is quite a big spine. And so actually this is quite a nice place to fly first thing in the morning. And there is a takeoff up there. Oh my God. Right. There we go. So this is that piece we were just looking at. So this is this ridge, and this side of this ridge get illuminated in the morning and it all works quite well. So this will all be in the sun first thing. So quite early on, you can fly on this ridge, and there is a takeoff up here. I think it's around about here. Yeah, it's in the gap there somewhere. But it's tiny and it's surrounded, it's very steep and very small and surrounded by trees, and you've got to get your takeoff to spot on. You're totally capable of doing it. And then you can take off and fly on this sunny ridge. Technically, you're not supposed to land in any of the fields down here, which means it's before you get too low, you need to fire off and get at least down to the side of the lake, down over here, or over into these fields, or preferably all the way back to the Doo-side landing here. A much easier way of accessing this ridge first thing in the morning is to go up to Falklands over here early, when Falklands isn't going to be working, take off and fly straight across the lake. And if you do that with your hands up, on your glider, you should easily make it across the lake in nil wind, basically, and then arrive on this rock face high enough to get up if it's in the sun and it's working. And so as long as you arrive sort of in the top half of this ridge, you've often got to get really close before it actually starts to work. And then you'll be good. You can stand on the forecast side and you can see people soaring on this side. And then you can then, from here, when it starts to really develop, you can thermal out of this ridge and drop onto this big ridge behind. But you have to bear in mind that this in here is a trough. And so behind the Entreverne ridge, there's a gully which is very, very easy to get stuck in. So if you thermal out of here and let yourself drift back, you can end up landing in here, which is going to be horrible. Lots of power lines, it's not flat, tricky landings, and the wind is going to be doing all sorts of awkward things. And so you'd only ever drop back onto this rock behind, which is called a rock de berth. You'd only ever drop back onto that if you had plenty of height to be able to sort of go and have a sniff and then still make it back in front of Entreverne where you're vaguely safe. But on a good day, you can get up on Entreverne, you can drop back onto Rock de Berth, you can climb right to the top of Rock de Berth and get up really high, and then you're in the game early in the day. Your other option is to not get up quite so early, and in the morning, go around to, or sort of earlier than you would from Foreclaz at least, go round to Plomfay, which is here. And this takes that valley wind, which happens a little bit earlier. It's a little bit further orientated, a little bit further round. It gets the sun a little bit earlier in the day. And so this ridge can start to work a little bit sooner than the Foreclaz ridge. Oh, fucking dickhead, come on. So there we go. So the takeoff at Plomfay is on this ridge here, which is actually steeper than it looks. This is basically a cliff. People go rock climbing up these bits. And so the edge of the takeoff here, if you were if you fell off the edge of the takeoff, you'd get caught in some bushes. And if you didn't get caught in the bushes, you actually fall off a cliff. So this is really fucking steep, which is fine. And if this is working and it's on, which happens relatively early in the day in the scheme of things, it's very easy to get sort of stuck just ridge soaring up and down this ridge. You don't tend to get the opportunity, sometimes you do, but you don't tend to get the opportunity to thermal out of this ridge. If you want to get high, the way to do it is to come around to this end and get as much height as you possibly can on this end of this little ridge. There's no point in getting high at this end of the ridge. We want to come to this end of the ridge, get some height here. If you start getting halfway down this ridge, you need to bail out to the landing field so you're not risking going low over these houses and breaking the rules. But if you can get some height here, then you can get some height here. You can dive round over to here above this little village called Bluffy, so we call this Bluffy here. And there's a spine that runs all the way up to the top. And so if you can get some height here and dive across this little valley and get onto this spine, now this is collecting, the valley wind's coming this way, it's collecting thermals coming up this way, and this works surprisingly well once it's in the sun and it's working. Works much better than here. And these thermals sort of stick to the edge of this spine, and you can claw your way right up to the top of this terrain, which is way more exciting than it looks on this Google Earth. It's actually, these are massive, spiky, rocky teeth called the Teeth at the top of here. It's called Donde something. Donde l'Enfant, I think it's called. But anyway, it's we call it the Teeth. And it's big, much more impressive than it looks here. And if you can get high above the teeth here, or if you can get up to the top of the teeth here, even if you're just at the sort of the gums of the teeth, then you've got the option of going across the lake. Until you've got sort of the height of the gums of the teeth, you sort of want to stay around here. But if you've got the height of the teeth, you've actually got the height to go on a massive long glide all the way across the lake, which is an awesome thing to do. But you have to, oh, sorry, not that way. Don't go that way. That would be silly. Okay, you're high over the teeth, up level the teeth with here, and you can go right across the lake, across over onto this side, and get onto this side of Rock de Boeuf. And so if we just think about how the valley is going to be working, I'll come back to that. Think about how the valley is going to be working as the day develops. And this is really the important point that I want to make, because you can get yourself in a bit of a pickle in this valley if you get this wrong. We can reset back to here. So this is Four-Class takeoff and plomb phase over here. And so in the morning, Entrevern's going to be working, and it's totally safe to take off in nil wind at Four-Class takeoff and fly across the lake and fly on this side in the sun and do that sort of thing. As the day develops, as all the mountains heat up and it starts to draw warm air up of every sunny face, you get a valley wind start to establish in every valley in the Alps, drawing air up towards the biggest bits of rock around. And so around here, everything gets pulled up towards Mont Blanc. And so you get valley winds coming from Annecy, coming down the valley this way. That valley wind is going to split and go up this valley. It's going to split and go up this valley. And so it all sort of feeds, pulling up this way, pulling up. Whoa, everything's going to feed up this way. If you're ever not sure which way a valley wind's going to go, if you can work out which way the water's going to be going down the valley in the rivers and streams, the valley wind will normally be going in the opposite direction, going up. And so in the morning, you can go and fly here, and it'll be totally fine. If I just zoom in here, yeah, that's better. So in the morning, for example, you could be flying on Entrevern Ridge, having flown across the lake, and you could come and fly down here, and there's no reason not to, other than it actually gets quite low and it's not the best place to be. But anyway, you don't really need to come past this quarry. You see the quarry? Oh, this quarry here. High tech. So in the morning you could do that. Once this valley wind starts to establish itself, which happens sort of late morning, normally, depending on what's going on, the valley wind then starts coming down from Annecy and feeding up the opposite side of that. So now the opposite side of Rock de Boeuf, this rock here. Sorry, this is Entrevern, isn't it? The opposite side, that's Rock de Boeuf. So this is the Entrevern Ridge, then there's that gully, and then this is the start of that Rock de Boeuf Ridge. The valley wind comes down and it feeds up the opposite side of it. And so that side becomes pretty much ridge soarable almost. It's being fed by thermals as well, which you kind of need, but it's sort of half ridge soaring, half thermally up the opposite side. And once that's happened, this side down here becomes a fucking awful place to be. And so in the afternoon, you don't want to fly over and be over here. You don't even really want to fly over and be over here, because you're going to be lee side of all of this terrain. Once you get over here, it's all right again, because everything's sort of, it's actually relatively clean air here. But and so Doussard landing fields in the middle of the valley where the air stays nice and clean all the time. But over here would be awful. And so the point is, in the morning, you can fly across the lake and put yourself in a position where you wouldn't want to be in the afternoon. And I've made that mistake in my early days when I came on a trip here. Flew across here in the morning and it was lovely and we were thermally and it was great. Went back and did it in the afternoon, flew across here and got absolutely trashed. And half the group that were with us got absolutely trashed, and people decided it was really fucking terrifying, and then half of them never came back to Annecy again because it was such a scary, horrible place to fly. And so this is a terrible place to put yourself in the afternoon. You can go there in the morning. A similar thing happens on the other side of the valley over Four-Class here. And so in the morning, you could quite comfortably take off at Four-Class over here and then turn left and hug down the side of this ridge, sort of trying to ridge saw and probably failing because it's probably not working, and ridge sawing, scratching your way down here. You can do that in the morning when there's no significant wind. In the afternoon, the valley wind is going to be wrapping along the side of this ridge, and every little buttress that sticks out into that valley wind is going to be giving you turbulence. And so every time if you in the afternoon, if you've got a decent valley wind and you take off at 4 claws and turn left, you can end up with some really messy, horrible air, especially if you go down here and end up going around this corner a bit. You can be properly in the wrong place. So what you can do in the morning is not the same as what you can do in the afternoon. In the morning, you could take off of there and go and fly over to here and go and land over here, and it'd be absolutely fine. You do that in the afternoon, it's going to be fucking horrible. This valley wind accelerates through this valley in the afternoon. It gets really windy over here in the afternoon. It's perfect nice in the morning. There's actually another morning site over here that you can fly on, which is really nice in the morning, and it gets really windy in the afternoon. You don't want to be here. So you've got to think about how the valley winds are working. So the valley winds are going to be coming up this valley. It's going to be splitting, coming up this valley. It's going to be splitting, going around that valley. Everywhere where you get a pinch point, it's going to accelerate. Everywhere where it gets wider, like where Dusard Landing Field is, it's going to decelerate. So big, wide valleys, you get a gentle-ish valley breeze. Tight, narrow valleys, you get a really strong valley breeze. One of the places where it gets really windy is over here. If you were flying, taken off by the Acro Adventures thing here, that's like a Go Ape sort of thing. So you can take off there, you can get some height at the end of the ridge here, you can pop round to Bluffy here and then up the spine and thermaling up the spine until you get up on the teeth, which are up here. And then from the top of the teeth, you can actually go off this way. I'm not suggesting that you might want to do this quite yet, but by the time you're doing this, the valley wind is coming down this valley, and so it's washing down here. And the pinch point here is this gap here at tone. And so you want to be really wary of the trap at tone, which I can do some flying. Oh, that's a good view. There we go. So this valley wind comes washing down here, and it comes washing down here and actually washes, splits, and it goes up this valley. So now this bit becomes ridge sawable here. So this is quite a good place to go if you are heading this way. A terrible place to go is into tone itself, which is now this pinch point here, and it comes absolutely fucking hooning through here. And so there's some nice big looking landing fields in the middle of Tone town, but it will be absolutely howling. If you have gone over here and you can't stay up, you're better off bailing over the back of here. When you get up to here, you can know there's nice places to land next to the go-kart track. There is a great place to land. They've even got beer and go-karts. It's a good spot. And so by the time you get to here, this hooning valley wind has now split and gone up this way and split and gone the other way, going. So this is a T junction really here. This is a wall. The valley wind comes through here and it goes that way and it goes the other way. And so as you get away from this pinch point, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. So further you get up here, the more pleasant it's going to be. Right down here, it's going to be really windy. You probably don't necessarily want to be heading off towards Tone anyway quite yet, but if you do, watch out for that. Hang on, I've gone too far. There you go. That's about it. So we're going to get, in the afternoon, we're going to get this valley wind coming whipping down the lake and feeding up this side. This bit of rock here is called Roc de Berth. This was the Entreverne Ridge, which is the bit that works in the morning. And this is Roc de Berth here. And so if you can get up onto the teeth above here, by the time the valley wind has started to come in, you're then in a really good position to fly across the lake and try and drop onto Roc de Berth right about here. And if you can do that, you can then sort of half ridge saw and half thermal up and up and up and up and up and up and up this bit, which is working really nicely. You wouldn't want to put your south lee side of that ridge, but you can get up to here. And then from there, if you can get over the ridge, you can then dive this way, expecting it to be a bit sinky and a bit mucky and a bit horrible for a bit, but then dive away and get all the way back to Dusard. So that's a lovely flight to do, is to get up to the teeth, cross the lake onto Roc de Boeuf, get as high as you can, and then dive over here. When you're doing that Roc de Boeuf bit though, nearly there. Look at that. So you've flown across the lake and you've arrived here. You can arrive really, really low, and there are places you can land down here. It's amazing how well it works from down low. And if it's working well, you can just fly up this, and this is getting higher and higher and higher, and you can just be sort of keeping pace with the top of the ridge when it's working well. If you're not keeping pace with the top of the ridge, an easy mistake to make here is to start to sort of head up this way, and as soon as you stop making pace with the top of the ridge and you end up trying to push off on a glide this way, it's not gonna work. It just, as soon as you do that, you end up down in the fields down here. So if you find that you're going up this way and then you lose it, go back, because this is actually quite steep here. You can easily go back and get back to the top of the level of the top of the ridge again, and then find something else and sort of work your way up, picking your way up gradually. There's a couple of sets of power lines going up and over the ridge, which tend to be a bit turbulent the air tends to be a bit turbulent when you get to them, and then they're a bit of a trap, because if you can quite easily go just over a power line and then you can't get back again because the power line's in the way. So you've got to be a little bit careful what you're doing. But once you get some height, you can then dive back over to Dusard, which is over here, which is a really nice little flight to do. But yeah, beware pushing on and getting lower and lower and lower in relation to the top of the hill. Once you start to get separated from the top of the ridge, you probably won't get back up again. So by all means push on, but then if you start losing it, go back, get some more height again, and then push on again. And you want to try and edge your way up stepping stones, up and up and up and up and up, until you get, ideally, up to the high point of Roc de Boeuf, which is over here somewhere, that bit probably. And then from there, in the future, there's all sorts you can do from there. It's just an epic starting place. If you're going up in the afternoon, you want to be going to Forclaz rather than Plomfay. And in the afternoon, that valley wind will be coming up the valley. Where's the bloody takeoff? There's the takeoff. There's a takeoff here. That bit. Oh, it's even got a crashed paraglider on it. So, yeah, in the afternoon, you want to go and take off from here. And if you do start to get low, if you start getting significantly lower, certainly as low as the road down here, you need to be diving off towards Dusard landing before you run out of options for landing. But if you can get some height here, you can push around this bit of terrain. You'll see tandems doing this. If in doubt, follow the tandems. You can push around this piece of terrain. And if you can get some height here, you can get some height up here and then make this jump across this valley onto this big bit, which again is a really big, impressive, rocky outcrop called L'Enfenay. And then from there, if you can get some height at L'Enfenay, you can push round and get round back onto the teeth, which are here. And so you can totally take off at Forclaz, get some height at Forclaz, push round over here, get some height here, push round onto L'Enfenay, get some height there, push round onto the teeth, get some height there, and then fuck off across the lake, get onto Roc de Boeuf, get to the top of that, and get back down to Dusard. And that is an epic flight to do. Other options, you can get some height here, and then from there you can drop back onto this big mountain behind, which is a massive, it doesn't really look it, but when you get up there you realise how much higher it is up here than the teeth are, which are all the way down here. So you want to get some height here, and then you can sort of drop back onto this grassy bowl here, and be prepared to run away, because this is a bit of a gully here, and that won't be working in the gully. Gullies suck, they never work. So if you get some height here, push back over here, drop onto this bit of grassy ridge here, and then you start sinking out, sinking out, sinking out, sinking out, sinking out, you can now get stuck here and not be able to have a glide out. So be ready to run away and get back in front here, or run away and get back in front here. But yeah, if you can drop back over here, you can sort of ridge saw this bit and pick your way up here, and you can make your way right up to the top of Tornet, which is huge. And if you can get up there, come on, flying. If you can get up to the top of Tornet, then from there you can kind of go, so you're really high above this, you can kind of go anywhere in this region. This chain here is called the Chain des Aravis, which is a big motorway of mountains throughout the Alps. And you can get onto it. You can get onto that round at this end, or you can go over to a place called Grand Bernard over here, and you can take off and you can climb your way up onto it, and you can get onto it this end, which is some absolutely epic flying along the Aravis. But from top of Tornet, you can just fly over there and get onto it. It's an awesome part of the world, and you've got all sorts going on with valley winds and whatnots and all of this. So anywhere you go, make sure you find out what the valley winds are going to be doing in the valley that you're likely to be flying in. And if you can get to grips with that, it makes life a lot easier. As a reminder, the valley wind is going to come up this valley going this way. It's going to split and go up this valley going this way. It's going to split and go up this valley going this way. It's going to come up this valley here and head up this way, all working its way up towards Mont Blanc over here. So if you're not sure what's going on, the valley winds will generally be feeding up towards Mont Blanc. But if you can get your head around which way the valley winds go, that is half the challenge, really. But I'd recommend keeping it relatively simple for now, staying around the valley, getting some flights, getting yourself orientated. And if you're going to go off anywhere else, I would make some friends, get some advice, and try not to put yourself lee side of anything that's sticking out into the valley wind. So for example, here you've got the Roc de Boeuf that comes down and sticks out into the valley, and that is now a big buttress that sticks into the valley wind, and it's going to get trashy behind here. When the valley wind develops, it comes washing up this valley here, and so down here, this ridge here sticks out into this. This is a pinch point as well, so the valley wind comes whipping. It's really windy here on a day when it's just like a ground handleable wind in Doussard landing field over here. This buttress sticks out into this really strong valley wind where it's accelerated through this gap, and here, lee side of this strong valley wind, is the shittest, roughest, most turbulent air I've ever found in the world, and it was fucking awful. And I got there by going round the Aravis and then trying to fly back to the valley and pushing across this valley really high, but didn't make this transition and ended up behind this bit of ridge. And that was absolutely horrible. So anywhere where there's a buttress sticking out into a valley wind, you're going to have a windward side, which is going to be safe, and you're going to have a lee side, which is going to be absolutely awful. The golden holy grail of where you actually want to be flying. They're still renovating this hotel. The holy grail of where you want to be flying is somewhere that's got the wind on it, the valley wind on it, like this side of Roc de Boeuf, and it's also got the sun on it. If it's got the sun on it and the wind on it, it's going to be the place to go. If you can try and remember that if you're trying to go places. Think, where's the valley wind going to be going? That's the most important bit. That sort of overpowers everything. And does it also have the sun on it? If it's in the sun and got the wind on it, it's going to be working well. In the morning, before you've got a valley wind, you're going to get an anabatic flow going up anything which is into the sun, which will be the eastward facing sides. In the evening, when everything cools down again, you get a katabatic flow, which is the wind going down all the cool mountainsides. So in the evening, this is going to all eventually switch off, start going into shade, and then as soon as it starts going into shade, the air starts coming down the mountain. And that happens everywhere across the whole mountain range, and the whole valley wind system reverses, and the wind comes whacking the other way down the valley. So at sort of somewhere around about just before dusk, when you can be landing in the evening, you can find that the valley wind switches off to nothing and then starts coming the other way, and so that's going to affect your landing approach This is your due-side landing. So normally you would come around and come in this way, but that's now downwind. And so you would now choose to come around and come in this way instead. The best thing to look at to see if that's happening is other people landing. If you see someone land and it looks like they landed sensibly, then they probably landed into wind. If they landed and their glider went overtaking them and slamming down nose first, they just landed downwind. The valley wind sits low down in the valley. And so you can be flying at 1,000 feet and have nil wind, but it be really strong, windy valley wind down in the last few hundred feet, which is why it's worth being sensible with your landing approaches. When you know you want to land here, you want to first of all get there, get to your landing field with plenty of height, get there upwind so that you're not getting stuck downwind, lose your height upwind, you're now dropping down into that strong valley wind, and then you can assess how strong it is and then go round and in for your landing. And other than that, I reckon you'll work it out. Have a good time. Bye.